Thank you, Mr. Mecca. So moving on, Mr. Aslanian, thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Aslanian. I'm with the Coalition of California Welfare Rights Organizations. We primarily represent poor people and legal services organizations. We're in daily contact with people on welfare who call us up with various problems throughout the state. And if you look at the CalWorks program, the maximum grant that Mr. Bland was referring to that families get, that's only 30% of the caseload. 70% of the caseload has a grant level that is minus one person. And 70% of the caseload for a family of two, rather than getting $547, two people get $333 a month. And the reason for that is because the parents have been penalized, have been sanctioned, or they have an MFG child, or they've timed out. So the program is, if you look at the average grant, it's actually $509 a month. And that's only 31% of the federal poverty level and 21% of the supplemental poverty level. So we should do away with the maximum grant and also try to fight back the sanctions. We would hope that we could meet with the department and try to work on trying to reduce sanctions. Counties have $90 million a year to cure sanctions. That is in the single allocation. And that should be put to use to cure the sanctions. The recent number I saw is about 50,000 sanctions, and that's an enormous amount. Regarding time limits, like Mr. Mecca said, when this program was enacted in 1998, we had a 60-month time limit. And then Schwarzenegger brought it down to 48 months. And now it's down to 24 months. There's 21 red states in the United States of America that have a 60-month time limit. There's only 2 states, besides California, that has a 24-month clock. That's Idaho and Arkansas, plus California. So we would strongly urge you to go back to the 60-month, which is that's what the feds allow for, and we should do that. And also, and then the final thing is that the earned income tax, earned income disregards. Right now, the earned income disregard is $225 a month. That was put in there in 1998. In today's dollars with CNI, that is equal to $344. So we should go back up to $344, and if the parent who's working is meeting the federal work participation rates, they should be included in the family budget unit for determination of eligibility and payment, because there's a whole bunch of parents who have timed out, and it really doesn't pay for them to work. A lot of these families who are working 20 hours a week, what they really benefit is $3 an hour. That's all they get, because your benefits go down, your food stamps go down, and then on top of that, you have to pay for transportation, you have to pay for childcare. And finally, we would hope that we could meet with the other thing I was going to say, that we spend $6,000, about $6,000 on per family on CalWorks. That's for their benefits, for them to house their children and clothe them. On the other hand, we spend about $20,000 in a welfare to work activity for one person. So our priorities are kind of wrong. I think we should take care of the families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aslani, and Mr. Woolsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My comments are directed only to the CalWorks budget. As is our custom, our office has reviewed the CalWorks budget. It's a current law budget, notwithstanding the many changes that have been discussed in prior years, and we raise no issues with the assumptions behind the budget. But we will revisit the budget in May when the updated estimates come out.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, anything from Finance?
Chris Cook, Department of Finance. No further comments, but happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. There are a few questions, but I want to also allow the budget chair to ask questions or give a few comments. We are honored to have her here because not only has she been the chair of the subcommittee, she is a champion of what needs to be done to help our families come out of poverty. People use that term lightly, champion. But in Dr. Weber's case, it is a well-deserved description, and we appreciate her guidance. She has been having this conversation and leading this conversation, and we look forward to her guidance and direction as our budget chair, and look forward to your comments and your questions. Madam Budget Chair, thank you.
Fine, and I want to thank Chairman Thurman and those who were here. And this brings back old memories that look like sitting in this, listening to this conversation.
Flashbacks.
Yes, but let me say a couple of things. One, I am pleased that the conversation is continuing, and because I think last year in Sub 1, I indicated to those at the time that, I recognize the difficulty we'd had over the years in terms of the budget and the lack of resources, and recognize that what we saw was the impact that it had on families. One small thing somehow another triggers another, triggers another, triggers another, and so we find ourselves down the road with a lot of damage being done as a result of one act being done. But I also said, we didn't have the money to do everything the first year, but we should develop a broader plan of what we're going to do for the next few years, and that the issue should not be dropped. And so that's why I'm pleased to hear that the issues have not been dropped, that we did some things last year, that we still have to deal with this issue of the 24 months. And I think I made clear at that time that I thought 24 months was much too soon in terms of those who are on CalWORKs, to basically ask them to do what we asked them to do, which is to really stabilize themselves and get the education and do some things and get some support going for themselves so that they would not be in need of assistance before. A young woman who works in my office in San Diego was a CalWORKs person at one point. And when I mentioned to her about the 24 months, she was stunned because she was a young woman, single mom, going back to school, working a menial job, minimum wage, and now she's obviously working for me. At one point she was working for Marriott. Now she's working for the office as a field rep and doing extremely well, and to being able to care for her daughter in a manner that we expect them to be and not be on social services. But that took a number of years of support, her working part-time at the university, getting our assistance in the ways that we do with childcare, those kinds of things, and it truly made a difference. So here we have a story of a woman, when she looked at the 24 months, realized, oh my God, I could have never done this in 24 months because I got halfway through it and then I would have had to drop something or change something. But the support we gave her has made a difference in her life immensely, so that she now is a contributing member to society and one of our staffers for my office in San Diego and working on legislation and everything else. So I think when we look at it, we have to continue to ask ourselves a critical question about this time frame, this 24 months, where we had 60 months, then we could have 24, and then we've done some dibby-dabby with that, and so now that people aren't really feeling the need, that they're getting the support we need and what we want to accomplish with that. So I'm pleased that many of the conversations have not been dropped, that we still are continuing down this path, because coming back to where we want to be as a society takes a little bit of time. And so I don't always get a chance to make all these meetings. I do watch you guys sometime on TV and on web when I'm in the middle of other meetings, and in fact, I'm on my way to a meeting now. But I wanted to get by here because I know this would be the section you'd be talking about poverty. And you should know that poverty, working to eliminate poverty in California, is a major issue for the Democratic caucus. It is a major issue, one of our top priorities for the budget. And I think we did some things last year that began to turn things around. The maximum family grant is a major issue for us because it also talks about us not doing more harm to families by putting them in positions where there is no opportunity to come back. And so we're looking at a number of things that really get to the heart of the issue so that we can really help families to grow. We also are operating on a premise that our speaker has, that no one who works full-time in California should live in poverty. No one who works full-time should live in poverty. And that's a really powerful statement about that, because we want to incentivize work. We want to incentivize independence. But when people feel that it's better not to work than to work, because we have the type of opportunities, the jobs, the resources, and support that really puts them in deeper poverty by working, we want to change that dynamic. And that's going to be very important. So we're looking at a number of things to live up to that philosophy that no one who works full-time should basically live in poverty. And that's a major step for us to look at everything we do here. So I really want to thank our chairman. He's a strong advocate coming out of the Bay Area in terms of social service agencies and work. And those of you who are here who've been warriors on the battlefield for a long time, and but it's good to know that, as I said, the cavalry's coming. We're going to address these issues. Don't give up. Don't give up. The cavalry's on the way. We came to certain places last year. We'll continue to do this good work because it is going to take us a while to be there. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the committee. Good to hear that we're still looking at the same issues and addressing those issues and asking those critical questions. That is extremely important.
Yeah, we always keep hope alive.
Got to do that. Hope is where I'm from. You know that. Hope, Arkansas.
I know.
And I left Hope because there was no hope.
Hope, not dope. Keep hope alive. Thank you, Dr. Weber, for not just talking about it, but being about it. The cavalry is coming. I think I hear the horn sounding. A couple questions for the panelists. We only referenced child care briefly. And when you talk about 24 months, and I believe it was you, Mr. Bland, who talked about folks who were not able to be successful in 24 months, whether it be in increasing their earnings or educational goals. And, it just struck me that child care has got to be a barrier if you don't have the ability to have affordable child care. And, if that's what your data was showing from what you presented, could you speak on that, the interplay between the need for more subsidized child care, as well as everything else that we talked about, lifting the cap on the family grant and, changing the length of time that families can receive support. We talked about child care and any other barriers that you were seeing in the 24-month period where families were not successful.
Child care is a key component of the program, and it's available in 3 stages. And if child care were not available, that is a reason for non-participation and good cause, and that would stop the clock. Child care is complicated, and you can't deny when you look at the data, it looks a little underutilized. And we're trying to explore why that is, but we don't see it as a barrier to clients while their 24-month clock might be running, and child care remains available after the 24-month to clients while they're switching to the federal activities. And again, if they're in an education-focused program, they can have that for 36 months, potentially get an extension. And for clients, approaching the second, third, maybe third and fourth year of an education, paid internships, unpaid internships, those kinds of things would actually count as work, and potentially you could be mixing work and education and potentially putting together a federally accountable plan. That's what we would be hoping for.
Is the underutilization related to lack of subsidized slots? I mean, what does your data tell you about what's...
I think for CalWORKs, it's really an entitlement. There's no lack of slots for the CalWORKs families on aid. I think when we talk about lack of slots, we're talking more about a problem for the working poor and potentially former CalWORKs families. I'm not dismissing the problem at all, but from a program structural design standpoint, it's not a barrier in CalWORKs.
So is it a function of the need for more communication, making people more aware that this is a benefit that's available for you if you're going to be looking for work? We want to make sure we make that more available.
Absolutely. We want to make it clear to the clients, and we want to make sure they make that connection, early on, that child care is available, and they have a lot of options. Could be center-based care, could be family home, could be license-exempt care involving a neighbor or a relative.
If I could add, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Just to sort of continue from Mr. Bland's point, childcare is an entitlement for participants in CalWORKs. It's fully funded. It's been underexpended, actually, so it's not a matter of the slots not being there. There may be a question as to intersection of the rates that are paid and the supply of childcare. We're sort of working with our partners to look at those sorts of issues, and just to express my sort of solidarity with Mr. Mecca and the counties. We recognize that they have been coming out of a difficult period. They've also been responsible for the Medicaid portion of implementation of Affordable Care Act in the last couple of years and have done yeoman's work. So we are sort of working very closely with the counties, providing technical assistance, helping those that seem to have any sort of delay factors get fully implemented as quickly as possible. And as Mr. Bland indicated, all of the trend lines and directions are going in the right place.
Thank you. Mr. Mecca, were you going to add something?
Yeah.
Mr. Bland, Todd made my point.
Kevin Asley, from the recipient's perspective, when these programs started in California way back in '92, they did a needs assessment to see how many people would need, what percentage of the caseload would need the child care. And the number was 70% would need child care. In reality, only 30% of the caseload in welfare to work get child care. And one of the problems is nobody verifies that the family has adequate and safe child care before they're being required to participate in a welfare to work program. And the RAND study showed that a lot of sanctions were a result of lack of supportive services, which includes childcare and transportation.
Thank you. Yes.
Can I just add very briefly? I think there are also issues just related to the availability of child care providers beyond non-licensed providers. It is difficult to get in and stay in centers. I think we need to increase the capacity. And then I think I would also call out that many of the CalWORKs recipients don't work 9 to 5 hours, the hours that child care centers are traditionally open. Sometimes child care is just simply not there and available for the clients when they need it. And so I do think there are challenges, and I think Kevin's statistics are correct, and I think it bears examination.
And we will. I don't want us. I'm all for lifting, the maximum family grant caps. I'm all for whatever we can do to support our families. But I want to make sure we look at every intersection where there could be a barrier to our families having success. So we'll continue this. This will be an open conversation. I wanted to come back to you, Mr. Mecca. In your presentation, you talked a little bit about housing, and I wanted to just press down there a little bit more on the recommendations. You referenced some money, and your colleague is going to be making some recommendations. Is that going to be for a housing subsidy for individuals, or is it a subsidy or money to be provided to developers who would in turn develop low-income housing?
It's the former. When the legislature actually created this program, we were very pleased that the speaker was interested in dealing with CalWORKs homelessness. What your staff did with us is turn to housing partners to look at what are the best research approved evidence-based practices for getting people rehoused. And so we basically built a program based on the HUD rapid rehousing model. And in short, it's an attempt to get people immediately back into permanent housing and to pay for rental assistance and other costs associated with getting people immediately rehoused, whether that's negotiating and finding landlords, dealing with utility hookups, first and last, whatever it takes. And the department actually has done a really fantastic job, and our housing partners have really helped to ensure that the lion's share of the funding that you provide is for actual rental assistance. So there were 43, I believe, counties applied. 20 counties were able to share in $20 million. The total amount requested was $54 million by the counties. And because of the limited funds and because the state wanted to start that program up with counties that actually had an infrastructure and a track record, that's sort of who's gotten funded in this first round. And so we're very excited about the prospects. We're collecting a ton of data that we hope to have for the budget committee as the budget season goes along. And we're co-sponsoring, as I said, with Housing California, a request for an additional $30 million so that sort of the next group of counties can serve more children and families based on this model. And it's breaking down silos. It's bringing worlds together. This isn't the only program where this is a problem. In the child welfare program, where you want to reunify foster kids with their families, adult protective services, where you want to find a safe place for a victim of elder abuse, we at the social services departments have found that we can do everything right and not get the outcomes that you want because it's so difficult for people to find an affordable, decent place to live in California. So finding ways to bring these two worlds together, I think is the way of the future, and we've really appreciated the partnership with Housing California and the department.
Looking forward to our ongoing conversation on this. I want to hear from the public and ask if there are speakers who want to speak on this to come forward, and also at the same time stage for the next panel and ask Mr. Bland, Mr. Mecca, Mr. Woolsey, if you may stay, and then if Ms. Bartholow, Keisha Nweze, and Justin Rauza, and if you would come and join us at the panel. And that way we can transition quickly. We do welcome public comment. We are on a very, very tight timeline today. We're going to have a hard stop. So we're asking that speakers speak up to 1 minute. You don't have to take the whole minute, but because the committee is sensitive on these issues. But we are going to ask you not to go past 1 minute. Please.
Understood. So good afternoon. Michelle Gibbons with the California State Association of Counties. And first and foremost, just want to thank you, the chair, and the members of the subcommittee, as well as Chair Weber, for your attention on this issue. Counties are very concerned about the issue of poverty, so much so that CSAC is convening a poverty working group, and it's going to be led by 3 co-chairs representing the urban, suburban, and rural counties of California. And so we just look forward to working with the legislature more on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, I have 1 minute. I'm going to try to go really fast. Well, I just want to say good afternoon to the Assembly, and thank you for this time to hear me out. My name is Junebug, and I was born into poverty. I'm an advocate who participates in community organizing. I'm a parent leader with San Francisco Parent Voices. I also do work with San Francisco Health Plan, and I'm a native Californian voter. I'm a mother of 2 children on CalWORKs, and my son has benefited from Stage 1 childcare, and because of this investment in his early quality education, my son does above grade level in math. He's in middle school now. He's basically an A student, and he excels in his academics. And this is because of the investment in his early care. So I really do recommend to expand more childcare slots is another way to eradicate poverty. When my daughter was born, though, we struggled even more financially to make ends meet because of the MFG rule. My family was living on a monthly grant of around $500, and to appeal this process was a dehumanizing process, and to be exempt, I would have to stay off CalWORKs for 2 months, which I couldn't afford to do that. I was forced to get help from other sources.
I'd like to ask you to make your final comment, please.
Sure. So I was forced to get help from other sources, and so the MFG rule is based on assumptions, not facts. We need legislation and policies and budgets based on facts. We need to stop the MFG rule because it's not eradicating poverty. It's actually pushing us into deeper poverty. So thank you.
You did great. Thank you. Parent Voices always does. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Margaret. I am legally blind, so please excuse the fact that I am disabled. I am a parent of 4 kids, and I'm expecting baby number 5 now. This child is going to be an MFG child unless I take myself off CalWORKs, even though I'm exempt. I've been exempt since my oldest daughter was, I was 18. I was a teen parent. Besides that, I'm going to skip all the story I had, but I'm going to point out the fact that due to my disability, my 11-year-old should have never been exempt from the thing that she was born preterm. My 2 younger children were born preterm early, and it didn't give me a chance, and that was unfair for a person that's disabled to go through that. So this child, I'm hesitant to do that or not do that, and the MFG rule should be dropped. You guys will also get some connections to DOOR for those that parents that are on SSI that do receive CalWORKs for their children. Get connected to DOOR. You guys are looking for resources. There's one, and that's all I can say for right now. Otherwise, than that, I'll send you guys something in May.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Maria Lustor. I'm the organizer of Parent Voice in San Francisco. Our message today is that the governor has broken the wall of debt. We need to break the wall of poverty. As a parent, when my children were infant and toddler, I suddenly found myself a single parent. I did all the right things. I went to college. I earned 2 degrees, but one day I found myself a single parent. And I cannot just go to find work, pursue a career, and leave my children at home. So welfare provided a bridge for me, and I'm happy to say that my children are now in college and working. And poverty is not a judgment call. It is a situation. Not everybody who is poor is bad. And we just feel so frustrated when a story comes out in the paper or the media, social media, and everybody just attacks the poor mom. So I think in California, we know the solution. It's pretty obvious. I think it's a commitment to it that needs questioning. And at Parent Voices, I'll just go straight to our recommendations, which are also
take about 30 seconds, and then please wrap.
So it is our commitment to it that needs serious thought. We at Parent Voices urge you to provide access to childcare for all children and support parental choice. Repeal the MFG rule. Increase family grant to catch up with inflation. Simplify the eligibility process so that parents can focus on their family instead of making several trips to the welfare office or getting all those paperwork that needs to be done. And maximize adult time, limit to 5 years. We have to invest in our children because what we don't pay for in the front end, we eventually pay for at the back end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Martha Guerrero, representing the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. We are currently reviewing the budget proposals, but I do want to say that we do have a position on the repeal of the maximum family grant rule. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eileen Schnittger from Women's Health Specialists. We're a group of independent women's health centers, our 40th year, and across Northern California, north of Sacramento, all the way up to the border, we see about 51,000 women and men a year. We're part of the safety net, and repealing the maximum family grant is an essential piece of these excellent strategies that we're looking at. And like you said, Chairman Thurman, yourself, what are the intersections where somebody can fall through? Repealing the maximum family grant is essential. And everything that we can do to support our women and the women that we serve, we're behind it. We'll keep working. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Morris, here on behalf of the ACLU of California. I'm a resident of Oakland. Last year, more than 80 organizations with a range of reproductive and economic justice missions came together in support of efforts to repeal the MFG rule due to its exacerbating effects on child poverty and its coercive and restrictive effects on families' reproductive decisions and privacy. Child exclusion policies like the MFG rule are so ineffective that many other states have repealed them. Families on CalWORKs are striving to re-enter the workforce. But when we force those families deeper into poverty by denying aid for newborn babies, we make it harder for them to gather the resources they need to become employed and may even be contributing to an increase in CalWORKs caseload. Repeal of the MFG rule will also free up caseworkers to work with families to provide the transitional support that's at the core of the mission of the CalWORKs program, instead of spending their time determining whether a child will be subject to the MFG rule. Because of the MFG rule's ineffectiveness, its harmful impact on children and families, and its restrictive effects on reproductive freedom, we urge the Assembly to prioritize reinvestment in CalWORKs this year through repeal of the MFG rule. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sage. I live in Oakland, and I'm a volunteer with Access Women's Health Justice. It's an organization based in Oakland that connects women seeking reproductive choices in California with information and practical support. I'm here today to ask you to repeal the MFG rule as a part of the CalWORKs and state budgets. In addition to the MFG rule discriminating against children born into and living in poverty, MFG violates the reproductive freedom and privacy of low-income women seeking aid. By requiring the use of specific long-term contraception and enforcing disclosure and proof of rape or incest for MFG exemptions, this rule undermines the autonomy of women to make their own choices about their bodies and how to care for their families. The repeal of the MFG needs to be a part of budget conversations to ensure the health and dignity of California's women, children, and families. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having this meeting. I'm Nikki, representing Planned Parenthood, and we are strong support of repealing the maximum family grant cap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Rebecca Gonzalez, National Association of Social Workers, California chapter. We also want to thank you for having this hearing on poverty. It's very important this year, and I think we have a real opportunity to make a lot of reforms. It's early in the legislative year, but we have taken a position in support of repealing the maximum family grant, also of increasing the minimum wage, and we're also in support of many of the reforms to the CalWorks program, such as increasing the grants and increasing the time clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Krista Nimzuk with the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence. I want to thank you for having this hearing. You know, CalWorks is such an essential component for domestic violence survivors living in poverty who have so many fewer resources to escape the violence and abuse that they're experiencing. And the maximum family grant rule traps those families in ongoing violence and reduces survivors' ability to leave those relationships and really establish their lives. So we are in strong support of that effort and want to thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Kathy Mossberg with the California Family Health Council. We represent the Title X family planning providers around the state to the tune of about 236, and we want to go on record again this year in stressing the repeal of the maximum family grant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Alexis Fernandez with California Food Policy Advocates. CalWorks households are also CalFresh households, and we know that total family budgets and total benefits really do impact the ability for those families to avoid food insecurity and hunger.
Thank you. We'll be discussing CalFresh next. We invite your participation.
Good afternoon. My name is Lily Hunnemeter-Bergfeld. I'm the Director for Career Development Services and the CalWorks program at Santa Rosa Junior College. And I'm also the CalWorks Association President for the California Community Colleges. I just want to thank you, the legislature, CDSS, Western Center, CWDA, as well as other advocates in support of CalWorks clients, student parents. The California Community College CalWorks Association encourages all community college CalWorks programs to work closely with county welfare departments to support student success. I want to encourage CDSS and CWDA to have county welfare departments also communicate with local colleges. To work collaboratively together to better support client success for student parents in their educational journey out of poverty to sustainable employment and to show their children that a bright future is on the horizon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lyda, and I'm from Sac City, and I'm a CalWorks recipient. I started my education before I got on aid. It wasn't until my father-in-law got sick and my husband had to stop working. Once my father-in-law passed, my husband couldn't get his job back, so we had to get on aid. And then now that I'm in school, there's a lot of barriers that we have to go through. In order for me to be successful, we need our books paid for, we need family support, we need time to complete our classes successfully. And I will be transferring next year to Sac State. So thank you for your time.
Congratulations, and thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, staff. Noé Paramo, California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, and also here supporting the Having Our State Coalition, a group of representing communities of color throughout California. And we stand in support of repeal the maximum family grant rule, and also in support of the advocates' recommendations that create opportunities and options to get out of poverty and to stop any doors from closing through disinvestment. I would also add a thank you and stand in support of the Drought Food Assistance Program. I know it's on the next level session, and to continue funding to alleviate the impact that farm workers have in the Central Valley due to the drought. And finally, just stand in support with the coalition of organizations for the California Nutrition Incentives Act Market Match Program. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Andrew Shane with the California Association of Food Banks. We know that, of course, families living in poverty is exacerbating the 1 in 6 Californians who are food insecure right now and lack regular access to nutritious, affordable food. Therefore, we stand to ask for the repeal of the maximum family grant rule, as well as address all the other ways in which we can work on the clock, the COLA, the income disregard, and the grant levels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Good afternoon, Brenda Diaz with the Latino Coalition for a Healthy California, and we are in support of repealing the maximum family grant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole Wortelman on behalf of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors and Ventura County Board of Supervisors in support of repealing the MFG rule.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation of California. We're a Quaker-based advocacy group. Really appreciate the hearing and the commitment by the caucus to make reducing poverty a key priority. We think there's something wrong in our state when we're first in poverty and first in prison spending. Repealing the maximum family grant, lengthening the time limit, increasing CalWORKs grants, restoring, I should say, slots for child care. We think these are all very important pieces of the puzzle, as is the earned income tax credit. We would really like to see that. We think there's something really fundamentally wrong with our culture when we nickel and dime and scrutinize dollars that are spent on the poor, and yet we enact corporate tax breaks and so forth, and never even question whether that's producing the desired economic result. We think that would be a good way to pay for some of these very important programs, and you build strong economies from the ground up, not from the top down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Pete Wyworty with the California Partnership and the Health and Human Services Network. We're a statewide coalition of anti-poverty organizations. Really appreciate you, Mr. Chairman, setting aside the time for this hearing. Strong supporters of repealing the maximum family grant, returning the 60-month clock, and increased CalWORKs grant levels. I want to speak to where the money will come from. We know that you and Mr. Bonta and Ms. Weber are going to go into a difficult conversation with the governor. He has, year after year, underestimated the amount of money that is available, and we say, be bold, be ambitious, say what California needs, not what you think the governor can allow. And also looking at, as Jim said, prison spending. There's more money in prisons for this year's budget, once again, not more money for anti-poverty programs. Looking at corporate tax breaks. Senator Leno is going to come out sometime soon talking about $50 billion of tax breaks. Think about that money if it was in the hands. I really appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you saying, I'm trying to find a way to get the resources in the hands who need it most. We are too. We support you doing that, so be bold and step forward in that way. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Luann Nguyen, hailing from El Sobrante, and I'm also an attorney at the East Bay Community Law Center. This is my son, Lucas. This is my vacation day, so he's here with us. You know, the maximum family grant policy has been passed for 20 years now, and I don't think that anyone's presented data to show that it's done any good in our state. And in fact, wait for it, mommy, for a second, son. And in fact, all the evidence that we've seen with our interactions with our client shows that this policy leaves families homeless. It leaves children without car seats to come home from hospitals. It leaves children without diapers. It leaves family in toxic stress situation, making it impossible to participate in welfare to work activities and achieve the goal that we want for people in CalWORKs, which is to be able to be at a point where they can be present for their kids and to raise healthy members of our society. And the reason why this policy doesn't do that is, of course, it deprives children economically, but more importantly, it says something about the morality of our state. It says that we are willing to discriminate and we are willing to punish children from birth. It says that we are willing to have women in the welfare office share with us the most intimate stories about their sex lives and what birth controls they're using and what they are doing or not doing. And that is really inappropriate. It is an inappropriate state invasion in women's private lives for no public good whatsoever. And as Martin Luther King would say, the right time to do the right thing is right now. It's right now. It's been right now forever. How much longer do we have to wait? It's been 20 years. There's enough devastation already. Please, let this be the year. Thank you.